Hello, my name is Marge Benham-Hutchins, and this lecture is on workflow, unintended consequences, and clinical information systems.
Human-computer interaction is sometimes called human factors. This is the scientific study of the interaction between people, machines, and their work environment. This incorporates usability, and usability applies human psychological, social, physical, and biological characteristics to design, operate, and use technology. Human-computer interaction methods, they help us identify the success factors, the things that are critical to the successful implementation of health information technology. One of these is user acceptance, and this is influenced by the fit of the system. Does it fit with their workflow? Is it interoperable with other systems, speed, functions, the user's expectation? Human characteristics, such as the interface, the screen, the size of the fonts, the input device. Do we have a mouse? Do we have a touch screen? Do we use voice? Ergonomics. If we're going to be working at a computer for a long period of time, can we get at it? Can we see the screen? Do we stand up? Do we sit down? The cognitive match. Does it make sense to us? Can we sit down, and is there an intuitive interaction with the computer, or are we constantly trying to figure out with the software, are we constantly trying to figure out our next step? And of course, patient safety is a huge factor for human-computer interaction, because the new system may result in medical error or influence medical error if it doesn't work well with the human being using the system. After some information systems that were implemented in the 80s, it became very clear that implementing information technology in the healthcare environment was not exactly the same as in the banking industry or in other business applications. The environment was very, very different. And there was a body of literature published about that time that continues till today that's called Unintended Consequences. And it was unintended consequences of technology. And these were things like cognitive overload, too many alerts, the design of alerts within the systems, those little boxes that come up and can drive you crazy or actually have a useful purpose if they help you recognize there's a drug interaction or similar. There's a whole body of knowledge on how to design those, how people respond to them. Workflow issues, that's such as duplication of effort, policies and procedures that match. Ergonomics, like I mentioned, the physical interaction with it. Emotions. People get very emotional, get very mad, and they actually get very attached to their computers. There's a huge body of literature on people's interactions with computers. Workload. Do they increase our workload, or did they help us? Are they going to make changes to the check and balance routines, such as the illusion of communication? This is when an error could occur if somebody puts some information into the system with the expectation that they have communicated this to someone on the other end. Whether this is a medication order, for instance, if that medication order is not picked up by someone on the other end, then there's an illusion of communication, and it may interfere with checks and balance routines, which were very common in the medication administration cycle with nurses coordinating along the way. And then what they call the juxtaposition errors, and that's basically clicking on the wrong medication or the wrong patient name, and it just has to do with hand-eye coordination. Sometimes those pre-filled boxes, you'll get a couple letters and you click, and later you go back and you realize that that was not the one that you intended. Those are the type of unintended consequences of technology that we're constantly working on. Another issue with human technology interface is that different technologies have different interfaces, and these may actually vary by brand or versions of the same device. For instance, you could have a barcode scanner, an IV pump, medication dispensing machines, even phones. If somebody hands you their cell phone, you may not know how to work it. Computers, software applications, telehealth applications. The lack of standardization in these systems and in the interfaces quite often ends up with either frustration or could end up with error. Some of the options when you're talking about the interface is how is the information presented? Are you using text, numbers, pictures, icons, or sound? And which is the best option for what situation? Does it fit to the task, the workflow? Once again, those usability issues. And does it result in workarounds and or error? And as we all know as nurses, workarounds are very common in the healthcare environment. The goal of interface design research is for transparency, that it's so easy to use the technology that it fades into the background and the user focuses on the task. So human factor research works to identify the optimal types of data entry, displays, how we interpret, what contributes to sound clinical decision making, to develop designs that have a positive influence on the time it takes to complete a task, disruptions or interruptions, training time, burden on the support staff. So just a brief overview of human-computer interaction, human factors design applications. Some of those would be your graphical user interface, sometimes called your GUI. That's your actual interface and how it's designed, your little icons, the screen design. Information display, what type of images, icons, fonts, what color. What information do you want displayed at the same time? In the healthcare environment, this is probably going to be different depending on your functional role. If you're an ER nurse, you may want certain things that are going to be showing up when you first log in. If you work on the floor, you may have a different. If you're a physician, if you're an NP, all of this is supported by an adaptive interface design, and that's where you can customize. You can go into My Yahoo and a variety of other sites and you can decide what it is you want to have seen. So that's something that's very important to look at. Of course, the design applications that have to do with those multiple users, the synchronous and asynchronous, how we can use these design technology for training and education, design new input and output devices. Do we use voice? Do we have a mouse? Do we use proximity technology where the computer recognizes you're there, so when you walk away it logs off? Do you have touch screens? How do you design your help features? How are they intuitive? This slide is just an example of 3 different types of barcode scanners. And as you can see, they all do the same thing, but they all look tremendously different, have a different design, and consequently different input and output. So which is the better one? So usability, there's a few things that are very important, and one of the first is that you evaluate early and often. You never make an assumption. Technology today is not static. You don't decide this is what we're going to use today and think that's going to last for a long time. When the mice first came out, they were all connected, and now we have wireless mice. How do you get to set this up? Usability, it's really important. Is it easy to use? Is it easy to learn if you haven't used it before? Satisfaction, do people like using it, or is it something they find aggravating? Efficiency, is it efficient? Error tolerance, that means does it help prevent errors or does it help cause them? There are certain types of mice and trackballs and things that were shown that people used them incorrectly and accidentally clicked on things and did things that made it very difficult. And of course, it's very important for the fit of the system to the task. Usability is a topic that's been covered by Nancy Staggers a lot. She's a nurse informaticist at the University of Utah. If you're interested in this particular area, you could do a literature research on Nancy's work, and I think you'd be very pleased. She's done a lot of work in this area.
This concludes the lecture on workflow, unintended consequences, and clinical information systems. For your discussion assignment, you will post an example of a system workaround, one that you have read about, one that you have witnessed in your work environment, or perhaps have just heard about. And then as a class, we will discuss how workflow and system design influences these workarounds. What is the reason? Is there a unintended consequence of a particular technology that is resulting in this workaround? And then you will also discuss how these workarounds have a potential to influence patient safety, and also what can be done to fix these problems.